allied members and endorsed providers, as well as distributing all of our communications. Let me admit all of these. And today we are doing a webinar on the hidden payment costs. So I'd like to introduce Stacy King, the Director of Partner Relations with DealerPay, as well as Jan Jazrari with DealerPay. He's your regional director, is that correct? A regional sales manager?
That
Um,
is correct.
all right. And so I'll just go ahead and mute myself and let Stacy kick it off.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Christy. Again, I'm Stacy King. I am the Director of Partner Relations and State Associations here with DealerPay. And like Christy had said, Jan J is your Colorado area rep here for DealerPay. And we want to say thank you and appreciate you taking the time out of your morning just to be here with us for a little bit. Today's webinar, we're going to focus on payments, but more from an operational and a cost perspective, specifically where fees tend to hide, how to better understand what's going on your statements, and how to improve visibility and processes that can actually help protect your margins. Because payments don't just move money, right? They actually cost money every time that they're used. And because those costs are spread across all departments within the dealership and buried in the statements, they're easy to underestimate and oversee. And so today is about identifying sometimes where money leaks out in small ways that really just doesn't feel urgent, but is absolutely affecting your profitability. So if we can spot even a few of those areas, the cost savings for 2026 can be meaningful without changing how you sell cars or how you service cars. So my goal today is to provide you a little bit of practical insight that you can take back to the dealership. So when we talk about payments, payments, and Jan can testify to this, usually when we talk to dealers, we hear their payment process is being described as fine. And what we have currently found out is that usually that means no one has really looked very closely enough to see the inefficiencies within the dealership. So manual steps cost time, such as hunting down receipts. You're going to find them under the keyboards, in the drawers. Unreviewed fees cost money. Outdated processes can cost time and money. And none of these are going to show up as a big expense. There's not going to be a flashing light directed at you saying, hey, take a look at me, but it's going to show up as hundreds of small little expenses. And the cost savings here don't really come from cutting corners. It's going to come actually from eliminating waste and manual work. So the irony is that dealerships invest heavily in CRMs and things of that nature, or where ROI is completely visible. Payments often kind of get overlooked because those costs tend to be fragmented. But when you add up all of those fees, the labor time, the reconciliation delays, and the inefficiencies, your payments can be one of the most expensive operational blind spots. And that's why here at DealerPay, we often refer to that as a blind spot, because improving that visibility here often delivers cost savings without affecting your customer experience overall. So what happens when payments don't change? Well, when payments don't evolve, efficiency becomes just the norm. Accounting spends extra hours, reconciliation time, managers spend extra time fixing errors, staff rekeys, the transaction, all of that takes time, and all of that has a payroll cost, right? So even if your fees stayed flat, which we all know typically they don't, the labor cost alone starts to erode into your margins, right? And so that cost savings here often comes from simply removing unnecessary steps in the manual work. So staying the same. Well, staying the same always feels, safe, but it usually means that those fees can quietly increase over time. And you're going to hear me kind of repeat this over and over to an extent. Small adjustments happen, pricing structures, they shift and new charges can appear. So without regular review of your statements, those costs can actually become permanent. The savings opportunity really isn't a dramatic change, but it's catching those increases and those little fees early before they compound year after year. And that's where we start to see the higher erode in margins. I love this slide. This is one of my favorites. And I want you guys to think about this. Some costs never really show up as a line item, right? You're not going to get billed for it. But what's the cost of losing a customer? What's the cost of a poor CSI score? What's the cost of your customers being frustrated at your checkout? And the biggest one of all, what's the cost of margin erosion? So they show up as inefficiencies across the departments, as duplicate processes across rooftops if you have multiple rooftops, and frustrated employees doing work that really doesn't add value, right? So all those hidden costs are often larger than the visible fees in front of you. And they're harder to reverse once they become, that's just how we do things. So when we talk about payments as a platform, compared to just that terminal, that credit card machine sitting on the counter, what we really mean is reducing that fragmentation. Most dealerships don't have one payment system. They have quite a few, or quite a few different things that kind of have to all work together to do the same job. So sales might use one process and one service. Service might use another. Parts could use something else. And then your accounting department and your controllers are left at the end of the day or the next day to try and piece all that together after the fact. So that fragmentation at the end is very expensive because it's creating duplicate work. There's inconsistent fees and limited visibility, and that's a big one. Where that platform brings everything into one connected view, which immediately reduces hidden costs because you should be able to see everything broken down on a daily basis. And where manual steps are driving those labor costs in real time. So, from a cost perspective, a platform is going to reduce all that extra waste and it's going to bring everything together. So, you're going to have less manual work, fewer reconciliation errors, and faster closeouts. And when everything flows through that one single system, it becomes easier to identify reoccurring fees that shouldn't be there or costs that don't scale well as your volume is increasing. So there are three types of payment providers, and a lot of people don't realize this. Most payment providers are going to fall into one of these three categories, and each have very different cost and effectiveness. And the first type is that terminal just sitting on the counter. And those really just do the one thing. They process payments and then that's it. There's no visibility, there's no reporting beyond just the statement, and there's no operational context. So costs tend to hide here because no one's looking beyond the transaction itself. You don't have the capability of doing that until you get your monthly statement. The second type is a virtual or an internet-based provider. They offer flexibility, but usually without that integration into your DMS. And that means more manual work, more reconciliation efforts, and then the higher labor cost over time. And then that third one is a payments built into a larger system. For example, if your DMS has a payment system that comes with the DMS system. And those can be convenient, don't get me wrong, but payments really aren't their core focus. The fee structures are often a little bit opaque and reporting is very limited. And that cost optimization really isn't their priority because they want you using their DMS system, so they tell you you have to use our payment system, which is just not true. And none of these models are wrong, but they all tend to leave money on the table because they're not designed to help dealers actively manage their payment costs. So a true partner is going to approach payments differently. So instead of just processing your transactions, they focus on helping your dealerships understand how payments affect operations, staffing, and your margins. So from a cost saving standpoint, partnership means someone is actively helping you identify inefficiencies and not just sending that statement at the end of the month. It means helping your dealership spot reoccurring fees, understanding we're going to explain to you why those costs fluctuate, and we're also going to standardize the process across departments and multiple rooftop locations. So this approach is going to reduce, surprise cost. It's going to help prevent your fee creep because we all see it, and it's going to eliminate unnecessary manual work. So over time, that consistency translates directly into savings. And I have an example here later of a statement that we'll go through. And it's going to translate directly into savings, but not through dramatic cuts, but through, smarter operations for your dealership. So in a better dealership world, costs come out in multiple places at once. Transparent books means fewer surprises, easier audits, and things of that nature. That automated reconciliation means accounting teams spend less time fixing errors, tracking down receipts, and more time doing the job that they need to do. And at that enterprise level, visibility allows dealer groups to identify if one store might be paying more than another and correcting it and getting all the locations in alignment. So, and taking that compliance risk off the table, of course, is going to reduce the cost of mistakes, the possible fines, and the rework. So when productivity increases, your profits should follow. If it's not, then we need to have a serious conversation. But that profit should follow. And your employees are less frustrated. Customers experience that smoother checkout, and your CSI score improves. But the biggest one is that loyalty rises. And all of that is going to support that long-term profitability without having to sell more vehicles. So where is the industry headed? Oof. The payment industry, it does not get any simpler at all. Fee structures are becoming more complex. They're designed to confuse you. Consumer expectations are always on that rise. And if you think about it as a regular consumer ourselves, we're now accustomed to fast, hassle-free checkouts. I want to push a button and I want to move on. And regulators and card brands are always changing the rules. So dealers who rely on those outdated processes are going to feel that squeeze first. And they're going to feel that through higher cost, slower operations, and a little bit more customer friction. And dealers who modernize their payment structure are now better positioned to control those costs instead of just reacting to them later. And that profitability in the future, I mean, like I said before, it's not going to come from selling more vehicles. It's going to come from operating smarter. So it's a moment of choice. Staying the same often feels comfortable, but comfortable can tend to be expensive. Those fees constantly increase. The inefficiency and the hidden costs, those just aren't going to fix themselves. So here at DealerPay, one of our biggest thing and one of our mottos is change doesn't mean disruption. It means clarity, and it means understanding where the money is leaking out and taking control of it. And for many dealerships, that clarity alone can lead to measurable margin improvement. And you'll see this on this next slide here. This actually is a statement that again, here at DealerPay, we're consultants first. So even if you don't use us, you can send us your statement. And we always encourage dealers to at least have an expert in the space review your statements for you. Just don't pay it and send it, at the end of the month. This particular dealership, as you can see, the savings on the right there. But if you look over here, when we analyze these, it was all of these additional fees and their previous provider, was overcharging. So we broke down the numbers. And when you look at those on this slide, the takeaway really isn't the exact dollar amount. It's how many small differences added up. It was a few basis points, a handful of monthly fees, and a few hours of staff time every week. So over the course of a year, those small costs really turned into real money. And across multiple rooftops, that impact multiplies quickly. And this is where that margin improvement happens. It's not through a dramatic change, but it's through eliminating that inefficiency that no one really realized was even there. So this is where we want to hear from you. Every dealership is different, and the best questions usually come from your guys' scenarios, whether it's about statements, fees, reconciliation, or just operational changes and challenges. There's really no wrong question. And Jan, I know that we had some, I think, pop through early. Did we not? Or you're muted, hon.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Thank you very much, Stacy, for highlighting areas that we know it's a concern in various
Absolutely.
operations within the dealership. And we do have some questions over here I'd like to go over, and reminding everybody else that is on this webinar, please feel free to click in the chat and enter your questions, and I will read them once I finish these other questions that came earlier. Stacy, one of the questions I have here is, why do some fees change from month to month when the volume hasn't changed? The volume is the same, yet we're paying more, or there's some variance.
Yeah, great question. And there's several reasons why fees can actually fluctuate. Changes in how transactions are processed. As we know, manual entry or non-in-person transactions are priced the highest because they're the highest risk. Different card types being used. Amex is more expensive than MasterCard and Visa, or fees that are just charged. We've seen this, Jan. Fees that are charged per batch or per transaction, all of those kind of impact the total. Some fees are also adjusted periodically, which means they can increase without a notable change in overall volume. And again, that's why I push, review your fees or your statements. And if you see some things on there that, you have some questions about, send them to us and we'll dig in and we'll dissect them all for you.
Right. Thanks, Stacy. The other question over here is again evolves around the fees, where the mention is, are there some fees that we paid and we've been paying that we no longer need to pay?
Yes, unfortunately, we see that a lot, don't we, Jan?
Yeah, we
Um,
do.
yeah, and it happens more, than dealers actually realize. Over time, statements can include fees for services still being charged for equipment or features and programs that you don't even use anymore. So again, back to without reviewing each fee and understanding its purpose, those charges can actually continue month after month. And that again is starting to eat at your margin.
Yeah. Yeah, great. And just to add into that as well, Stacy, as we visit dealerships for a living every single day, I often see a lot of these terminals, credit card machines shoved in a closet or in a cabinet somewhere that they're not even aware of, and they're being charged every single month
Absolutely.
at the fees.
Absolutely.
Great. Um, the next question I have is, what are some of the most common fees dealers see on their credit card statements that they've been overlooked, and they
Oh,
overlook them usually?
great question. Um, and there are a few we see almost everywhere. So, monthly account or service fees, PCI or security fees, batch or settlement fees that apply every time a transaction is closed, a non-qualified or downgrade fees tied to how transactions are processed. Dealers often see network or assessment fees that are small. I mean, they're not very big, but per transaction can add up very quickly at the volume. Individually, the fees may not stand out. Again, they're not going to flash lights at you. Statements in these fees are there to confuse you, unfortunately. But together, they can have a real impact if they're not understood and reviewed on a regular basis.
Excellent. The other question I have in here is from a dealer saying, we are currently not on dealer pay. Can we send a statement for you to analyze to make sure that we're not paying fees that are not in line with our system or our need, if you will? This dovetails very nicely with the example that you had on the screen a few seconds ago,
Yes,
showing all these fees on the left-hand side that they are technically disappearing when we're utilizing
absolutely.
our system. So, uh,
Absolutely. We are, like I keep saying, we're consultants first. Whether you use us or not, we want to make sure, especially in Colorado, we're one of your newest allied members. So we want to make sure, one, that you're not being overcharged because we do see that a lot, unfortunately. And I personally would like to put a movement together to where I feel like some of these providers need to be capped because it's astronomical, some of these fees that we're seeing. So yes, please send us your processing statements. We can do a review to confirm that one, you're compliant too. Compliance is a big one, and you're not paying those unnecessary or inflated fees. Again, we're consultants first, and we'll flag any questionable line item, such as an excessive markup, the PCI or non-compliance fees, the duplicate gateway fees or equipment charges, or those network assessment fees, all of that. So, yeah, we definitely encourage you guys to send us your statements. We'll dig into them and dissect them for you and make sure that you're in line with what other dealers are paying today.
excellent. Uh, any other questions, please feel free to add in the chat box, and we'll be happy to answer them. For those of you that do not have my direct cell number, I just posted that in the chat. It's 503-708-6852. I encourage all of you to give me a call. We'll set some time aside, visit uh, our software, our platform, and just casual discussion to where we can help you.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Stacy and Jan, for all of that valuable information. We really appreciate it. I also want to remind everybody if there's anything that they missed or they have any questions or if they want to share this webinar with somebody else, it's available on our website. And please, I encourage you to reach out to Stacy or Jan if you have any follow-up questions. Thank you so much for participating today. Stacy, Jen, any last comments or questions before we go?
We are very appreciative to CADA. This is our first webinar with you guys. And since I've met all of you, you guys have been a phenomenal bunch of group of people. So I definitely appreciate you. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but looking forward to the next one. And you'll see me floating in and out of some of your events for sure.
Absolutely. And our next event will be the Colorado Auto Show, the 10th through the 12th of April.
Yes.
So thank you, everybody, for attending, and we will see you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.